Good evening, everybody. My name is Ronan Coleman. I'm the program director for Cyber Innovate, and I'm joined tonight by our program manager, Sarah O'Donovan, and Colin McSweeney, who's kindly agreed to come on and give you a brief summary of the program at the end of my presentation. So the format is basically I'll run through a description of the program. Colin will then come in and speak for a few minutes on his experience of doing the program last year and where he is today, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. And rather than people jumping in with voice, we'll do it all through Q&A. So Sarah will basically read out each question that you put in, and myself and Colin will take those questions and answer them if we can. Okay, so to give you an overview of the program, it is a bit different to your standard entrepreneurship program. It's not a technology program. It's very much about innovation and entrepreneurship that happens to be focused on the cybersecurity market. So the idea behind the program is it's for people who want to do a cybersecurity startup but don't have an idea of what they want to actually build yet. So what the program offers you is the opportunity to go out into a specially designed immersive environment, and I'll talk a bit about what that is as we go through the presentation. But it basically gives you an opportunity to go out and identify unsolved problems, screen them all, evaluate them individually, come up with ideate some ideas, and then select one and bring it through the program. And again, I'll talk a bit more about that. So we've we're using two different methodologies: design thinking and the lean startup or customer discovery. And we've partnered with lots of different industry partners and innovation partners. Again, I'll talk a bit about those as we go through it. So it's run across two departments: the Department of Computer Science and the Department of Management and Enterprise in MTU. We also have a lecturer from the Art College in MTU as well coming in to do the design thinking piece. So the Department of Management and Enterprise, with about 800 full-time and part-time students, supported by 25 academic staff, runs numerous undergraduate and postgraduate business and enterprise-focused programs, and also some special purpose awards, and is very active in the research area as well. Then the Department of Computer Science would be, I suppose, between UCD and ourselves, would be the biggest department of computer science in Ireland. We'd have over 900 registered students and over 50 academic staff. And we'd be internationally recognized in the area of cybersecurity, which has led to us developing other, not just like your normal undergraduate and postgraduate degrees and research masters up to PhD. We also run a number of other programs like Cyber Skills, which is a CPD type program for professionals. And we also have the Cyber Ireland cluster, which is based in MTU. It was a regional industry cluster. It is now the national cluster for cybersecurity in Ireland. That's based on campus with us. So the diploma in cybersecurity innovations, there is a master's option, but basically what we're trying to do is we're offering generally the postgrad diploma. That should be sufficient for you to come in, validate your idea, and go back out and start the company. In some cases, you may need to do a research project, or the idea might benefit from doing a research project. But what the program is actually mainly focused on is on the postgraduate diploma. So it's got 2 semesters with 5 core mandatory modules. I'll talk a bit about more of each one, and 1 elective module. So our thinking there is somebody coming in with a commercial background will take on a cybersecurity module to upskill them in that area, or somebody coming in from a more technical background will take a business module with a view to upskilling them in that area. So it's the idea is we want to try and create people who are capable of starting businesses. So we want to flesh out their skills as much as we possibly can and kind of force them down of thinking not just their happy place of where they come from, but start thinking about the other side. As I said, technology looking at commercial looking at technology. It's a 10-month program. And it's full-time, on-site, minimum 3 days per week. I'll talk a bit more about that. So next year, the stipend or scholarship will increase to €39,000. That's paid monthly over 10 months, so it's 3,900 a month. And that's tax-free as long as you're not working. Now, just to be clear, is you cannot work during the program, and you also can't be studying any other program while you're doing Cyber Innovate as well. Enterprise Ireland, the funders of the program, are very keen that you're fully focused on doing this and doing this only. So anything else is just a distraction. Your registration fees for the postgraduate diploma are also covered. If you decide it's appropriate and you can find a supervisor and we think it's correct for you to go on and do a master's, if that costs about €3,600, which you pay yourself, it's not funded under your grant. So as I said, it's full time on site. The reason for this being is this is very much team based. There's 12 people do the program, four teams of three, and you work in a team from day one. We can't do this remotely. Other people this has been looked at. It's part of one of four Innovators Initiative programs in Ireland, and we've also partnered with the Alacrity Foundation over in Wales. Everyone's experience to date is this only works if people are located in an office for the bulk of their time doing the program. So from September, October, it's a compulsory 5 days on site or traveling to our partners in our immersive environment, our conferences during that period. And then from November to May, it's 3 days on site, Monday to Wednesday, with 2 days optional working from home. You are working 5 days, but ideally, if you're based in Cork, we'd expect to see you in a good bit on the Thursday and Friday. But you do have the opportunity to work from home if need be for those two for that part of the program. And it's Cork based. We can't do this remote. We can't break it up into different little satellite units because the whole thing is delivered on site in MTU. And as I said, there's a reason for that. So the recruitment process, minimum requirements, the deadline for applications this year is April the 13th. We'll have our interview day, which is a full day event on the 29th of May. First round offers mid-June, recruitment complete late June, and the program will start in late August. It's normally the last week of August is the first week orientation week of the program, which is fully starting then the first week of September. So we have 12 people per year, and it's aimed at working professionals with an existing undergraduate degree and a minimum of 5 years industry experience. Okay, so they're the kind of must-have requirements. There is an opportunity we can look at recognition and prior learning if you've done 10 or 20 years working in a technology space, and we can convince, and maybe you have a level 6 or a level 7. There's a process we can go through to get you approved if the head of department deems that you meet the requirements. It's not up for us to decide. It's not a kind of there is an exact process. You must be able to demonstrate you have the level of expertise and understanding of somebody with a level 8 undergraduate degree. So you must be able to attend in person. It's non-negotiable. If you can't do that, there's no point in applying for the program. We would take people from any background. Obviously, we want people more technical and commercial people, ideally who've worked in a technical environment. So if you have a commercial background, you need to be able to demonstrate to us that you're capable of understanding technical information and that you wouldn't be lost in the cybersecurity discussion, that you'd be capable of taking that kind of information on or working very closely with your team. So your team will be structured. Ideally, we have one commercial person, one cybersecurity person, and one person from whatever background. It could be two commercial, it could be two cybersecurity, whatever. It depends on the people who are selected on the day. But the main thing is we're looking for talented, driven, coachable, and curious and ambitious people who want to solve difficult problems and build their own business. So the goal of this program is not to upskill you, it's to get you to a situation where you can validate an opportunity, find a problem, validate a potential solution, and go on and found your own business, okay? If that doesn't work out, yes, you will end up going back into industry with a new set of skills, but the program's objectives are very much around this being a startup-focused program. So you will be based in the Rubicon Centre, which is our business incubator in MTU. So on the left there, you can see the Rubicon Centre. The right-hand side is actually the Nimbus Centre. It's a research centre. And we have a bunch of researchers in cybersecurity based in that building, along with a design thinking lab and a cybersecurity lab, part of which was funded under this program. I said, ideally you attend every day, but I said for the start, the first 10 weeks, it's 5 days and then 3 days afterwards, okay? And so you're in an incubator, in an environment with people who are trying to start businesses of all different types. They will be located in the same building as you, and you have your own room then with the other 11 students who are doing the program with you. So the IP arrangements, so basically MTU does not claim it. This is a taught master's. It's not a research master or research program, postgrad program. We don't claim any IP on your invention unless you work with an MTU member of staff or a researcher or student. So if you come up with the idea with your team, it's up to you to sort out between you who invented what, who came up with the idea. We can help you with all that. But if you decide to work with one of our researchers, then that's a different conversation, and that will be dealt with on a case by case basis. So the idea being is you're free to move to a different RPO, research performing organization, to carry out further R&D and commercialize the need. So if you spend your year finding a particular problem, and again, BioInnovate will be the existing program that's going on in the med device area for years. One a year or so would end up working with a different university because that's where the expertise is in Ireland. So if you come up with something, say in forensics, chances are it would be UCD would be the people who'd help you out there, and you just take your project at the end of the program, find a researcher in UCD that can help you, or go off and build it yourself. Either way, we don't make any claim on it. But if you work with our staff and they come up with the idea, you need to come to an arrangement then with MTU around that. So at a high level, this is just the purple ones are compulsory in the first term. The elective is the table below. So basically, we offer the kind of dark blue at the bottom is all the cybersecurity modules we offer through the cyber skills program, and then on the right hand side, the light blue, they're the business options. So again, the technical people would probably be looking at the ones in the lighter color, and the people who are
Roman,
commercial, yeah.
sorry, can I come in? There's a delay on the slides. I think I can see IP arrangements, and I think,
Is that
oh,
it
we're after
there?
tech. Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Can
sorry,
everyone else
sorry.
see that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the
Yeah.
wrong one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there's a message
So,
there from Jack. He was see, yeah, same as me. Yeah, perfect. We're good. Yeah.
okay. So the ones, yeah, I'll go back. I'll start this one again. So the first two modules are the design thinking and customer development modules. They will be basically the first three stages of design thinking, where you go out and find loads of different problems. And again, I'll talk a bit about more about this. Then followed by customer development, and then you also do your elective. So it's again, if you're coming from a technical background, you will end up doing ones on the right hand side, like you can see the light blue. If you're coming from a commercial background, you'll do one of the modules on the left hand side in dark blue. And the idea, again, as I said, is trying to upskill you into the opposite of where you've come from. If you're commercial, you're learning something about a cybersecurity module. If you're coming from a cybersecurity or technical background, you're learning something about business. Then in term two, then once you've got your idea, you finish do the last two phases of design thinking, where you're prototyping and testing the concept. It's not technical; it's very much about coming up with mock-ups of it. Again, I'll talk a bit more about this. And then the last two modules are more business focused. It's market research and regulatory assessment. And then the last module, then the cyber journey and planning, is a business plan and pitching training, and you pitch to a bunch of investors. So after that, then in orientation week, then you will come up with your own personal learning plan. And Colin did a really good one that we're plagiarizing since. And the idea behind it there is you come in with a set of skills. You're going to learn what we're giving you to do as part of the program. And you also sit down and work out what other things am I missing and how might I get training on that or help on that. And you try to tick off as many things as you possibly can over the years. So if you see yourself as the future CEO, you kind of look up at what are the typical skills that a CEO has. You mark off against what your own background is, what we're giving you in the program, and then work out if I'm missing, say, expertise in whatever, finance or marketing, how am I going to get those skills as well during the program or after the program, and map that out. It doesn't mean you have to do everything in the 10 months, but at least you've got a plan of upskilling yourself to that type of role. Similarly, if you're coming in with it, like to be the CTO, you might say, look, I don't need to know everything about marketing, but I do need to know finance, because anyone at a C level in a new company is going to have to talk numbers with somebody at some point. So again, it's about identifying your gaps and putting in place a plan that allows you to tick off those gaps. As I said, we'll have started that process with the elective module that's upskilling you into a different area. And also then we're discussing how we'll do this next year. We may change it, but the way we worked it this year was you will go into a team of three. Now, whether that happens in week 1, week 4, we're not sure yet. We did the first year columns group were mandated to stay together until Christmas, and we found the feedback from their group was that was too long. This year we allowed the teams to switch after term 1, and we found that worked quite well. But there is comments from this year's group saying maybe we should just allow the 12 people to go into a room for a number of weeks, get to know each other, and maybe self-select the teams after maybe a period of 3 or 4 weeks as they're in the immersive environment. So we'll consider that over the next couple of months, and we know what we're doing before you start. Okay. So again, we'll try it, and it depends on the people who get selected on the day. We don't pick the people on we must have three commercial, we must have or sorry, four commercial or whatever the numbers are. We'll very much be picking the 12 best people on the day, and then we work out the teams based on that. So, as I said, the ideal is a commercial cybersecurity plus one, but that's not necessarily the way it'll work out depending on the people who are selected. So the first module is called Design Thinking for Unearthing. What this is basically you go out into our immersive environment, which is basically industry partners. We've added the National Cybersecurity Centre in Ireland as part of the immersive environment next year. We also have the local authorities, and we're looking at maybe a bunch of MSPs or MSSPs for next year to kind of fill in the SME gap. At the moment, a lot of we are top heavy with multinationals. So the idea is that you will go out and interview loads of different people doing loads of different cybersecurity roles who don't this you will not be interviewing companies or people in companies that develop products or services. You'll be interviewing people who use or consume cybersecurity products or services. So you'll spend about 8 to 10 weeks doing this, and there's a couple of other things we do as well. We do tabletop exercises. We'll do some prototyping with our in a lab. We do I'm trying to think SOC analysis or SOC. We will visit a SOC to get an idea there. But the core thing you'll be doing that will identify most of your problems is interviewing lots of different types of cybersecurity people, and hopefully over the 8 to 10 week period, you start hearing common themes. So with Cullen's group, training would have been a big thing of the human was the problem. Last year, NIS2 was a huge issue because of the regulatory change, and also third party risk was a major issue because there's been so many third party hacks over the last 12 months. So the idea is that you'll uncover loads of different problems as a team. Generally, it's 2 to 300 per team. So by the end of that 10-week period, you'll normally have about 1,200. There'll be 1,200 needs identified. So and don't panic, it will happen. Everyone panics at the start, wondering how am I going to find all these things. It will happen naturally. A lot of them will be, irrelevant or unfixable or not really important. Sometimes you'll hear common needs that you might cluster together. And the idea being then is you ideate you end we ask people to come up with 10 kind of their core problems that they're identified, and then ideate about potential solutions for those using the design thinking process, and again you'll be taught how to do that. So the last piece then is you'll have your list of 10 potential problems slash solutions, and we ask you to pick one of those and move into the custom development module then, which is our second module in the first semester. So they run sequentially after each other. So the second one then is you have a problem, you have a potential solution, you think you know who your customer is going to be, and you go out and you start interviewing 50 of those specific type of people rather than that scattergun approach in the first phase where you're interviewing loads of different type of people. So just say it's a asset management expert is the area that you're interested in. You go out and try and find 50 asset managed people and maybe a few ancillary people around them, other stakeholders who are affected by their actions. Like obviously their CISO would be relevant, so you might interview a few CISOs. But what we're asking is you do 50 with that core group of people who really understand this problem. You might find after you do a few interviews, it's not really a problem. You go back and pick one of your other 10 from the list. And I think, Colin, you were a number nine, you ended up going with eventually. And you basically must be willing to pivot or change your idea. So it could be your customer changes, it could be your problem changes, it could be the solution changes, it could be all three. Okay. And you just keep going until you get to a point where you've got a problem with a potential solution validated. And then you bring that then into the next phase, which is the design thinking for solving state, which is basically the last two phases of the design thinking process. So you start with using low fidelity prototypes. You develop mock-ups of what the thing might look like, the solution might look like. You go out and show it to people, and you get feedback from them. Okay, and you use that to iterate. And as time goes on, you might move then. Okay, I'm fairly clear. I'm getting close to the solution here. You might start then upping the fidelity of the prototypes.
And you're getting to the point then where you're iterating continuously based on the user feedback you're getting. And at the end of this process, then you should be probably be using high fidelity prototypes. Column's team were nearly trying to hold them back like a horse, where their prototypes were brought to such a level they were nearly building a product by the end of it using some of the AI tools that were out there. And you should be able to define what your minimum viable product is going to be. Okay, so there's no technology work per se in this. It's very much about being able to just represent the solution to the people you're talking to, and these people will be the same people you spoke to in the modules in semester one. You'll be going back out to the people you spoke to and saying, "Look, you told me you had this problem last a couple of months ago. Here I have a solution. What do you think?" And getting feedback. So you might be looking doing something like this where you're showing them this potential solution, you're getting their feedback, making notes on what works for them, what doesn't, giving it a score and saying, yeah, that works really well, but we just need to tweak X, Y, and Z or add more bells and whistles to make this thing function for that particular group. So as I said, the objective at the end of the module is say we actually finished this group today was their final presentations of what their MVP is going to be. And in parallel, you're doing the cyber commercialization module where you're looking at the market for this particular solution. You're seeing who else is out there. And this is a big issue. You know, there's a lot, obviously, in a very competitive space. You need to understand who your competitors are. Is it a big market? Is it a growing market? What would stop me from entering the market? Is there lots of competition? All those questions you need to answer. So again, if someone's coming from a technical background, this will be the bit that's kind of newest to you, where you're learning how to do market research. We do have access to a lot of really expensive and important um, market research reports. One of the advantages of being funded by Enterprise Ireland is they also have, they actually have a library where they've got access to Gartner and Frost and Sullivan, which are two of the leading publications in the cybersecurity sector, particularly Gartner. So you also in parallel learn about the regulatory aspects of all this. So there's lots of regulation for those of you coming into cybersecurity space will be fully aware of what's going on at the moment. But like if you're not coming from there, there's this too has been implemented currently. The Cyber Resilience Act is kicking in. The AI Act is kicking in. There's DORA for the fintech space. There's the NIST framework in the US, which is and then obviously there's going to be things continuing. And then actually the current Cyber Security Act is being reenacted it by the EU currently as well. So you'll do a kind of half the module focusing on all that. That's not a negative thing. That's very much an opportunity because if you can identify what's coming with those regulations, there's a real opportunity to solve problems for people as those regulations kick in. Like to basically say an example would be the Cyber Resilience Act means that every device any device that goes online will have to be certified as like similar to your CE under your CE mark to say that you're cyber resilient and aren't at risk by going online. And that's the whole kind of worms that's coming. So, and every company in that has a device like that, as again, Cullen will think about his coffee machine example he gave last year. Like basically, a coffee machine would have to be validated that it's cyber secure before it's sold on the market. Okay, so it's probably going to be self-certification, but it's a real opportunity then to come in and start fixing problems for people in that area. So at the with those two bits of information, your market analysis and your regulatory analysis, you basically then work out and say, okay, where does this fit, and have I an opportunity here? You may have had a really good problem solution, but find out that Microsoft is launching a competing product next month as part of your research, and that means you're going back to your list of 10 initially and starting again because you're not going to be able to compete with a company like that. You have to find, I suppose, a bit of open ground that the company can run with and get started. And again, Colin might talk a bit about that. So you will use all this analysis to validate the opportunity for your startup based on your final concept. So your last module then is cyber startup journey and planning, and this one basically is more like your traditional entrepreneurship stuff. It's basically you'll be using a business model canvas the whole way through the program, and you'll be iterating that as you get more information and understand the model more and more over time, and then you basically use that model then to write a business plan. Now there was lots of gnashing of teeth when we made people do this, but it's a necessary evil that if you're serious about learning about starting a business and you want to raise raise money at some point, you will have to write a business plan. Similarly, you will have to write a market research report, the things you just need to do to start the business. So you learn how to pitch. So that goes on all year. So we ask people to, start presenting in the room that they're in almost immediately. And by the time the end of the year comes, people will get more and more confident, and we'll have professional training done as well, where your final business plan will be pitched into a bunch of investors. It won't be asking them for money per se, but it's probably your first meeting with them when you may be asking them for money in the following year. So we also provide, currently we have two mentors, one who's been very successful, who works with one of the angel groups in Cork and has successfully sold out a business himself. And the other person, Pat Larkin, is the former president of Cyber Ireland and is heavily involved in a company called Echo at the moment. And it has, I suppose, 30 or 40 years really good, both technical and market background in cybersecurity, and work with you to help you, guide you through the process of starting your own business. So at the end of it all, then you make your own decision based on maybe the panel feedback, customer feedback, your personal circumstances, your teammates. There's lots of different things. You have to be, you're supposed to be halfway through your career. You should be capable of making this decision. You basically say, right, am I going to go for this now and do a startup, and who am I going to do it with? Okay. And it could be on your own. It can be with the team that we put you in or you end up in. It's up to you. I mean, this is your decision. You're going to be spending the next 10 years working on this, or hopefully it'll be 5 to 10 years, but it'll be a big commitment. So it's something you need to do yourself. And then you make a decision of, what do I want to do next? Do I start the company very quickly and use whatever funding I can get to get running? Or do I look at using funding opportunities that are available within the university to develop the technology further before making that call? So you can see our partners here. So these would have been the people. We've added the National Cybersecurity Centre for next year. And we've also probably going to add the Irish Manufacturing Research Centre for people who are interested in operational technology or OT technology. And we added the new partners for this year would have been State Street, Icon, and the local authorities. And the idea is, over the years, we want to build this out where we're maybe visiting each one of our partners every second year rather than every third year, or rather than every year. But like so far, like we've been in MasterCard both years. We've been in Fexco both years. We've been in East Entire both years, and we've been in McKesson both years. So you can see not all of them are every year. East Entire is a local security operations centre, so they're normally our first visit, and they're really good at giving you an overview of, top to bottom, what a cybersecurity team looks like, and it sets the scene then for the further meetings. So these are normally 2 day visits. So you basically go up and, you're there at 10 o'clock in the morning, first day, you interview people all day, you stay the night, and then you interview them all day if they're outside of Cork, which was, if you look at the moment, you've got State Street or Kilkenny, Icon are in Dublin, MasterCard are in Dublin, ICBF are in Cork, Tynes are in Dublin, Fexco in Kerry, Eastern Tire in Cork, Dupuy in Cork, Dale in Cork or Limerick, depending, McKesson in Cork, and then Air Evo is in Dublin, and obviously the National Cybersecurity Centre is in Dublin. But they are key partners that allow you to identify problems. We also have innovation partners in Georgia Tech, deliver the customer development modules. They actually come over, and there's two ladies, Melissa and Sarah, that deliver that training. Would be recognized experts in this customer discovery, customer development methodology. They're part of a program called ICORE funded by the National Science Foundation in the US, and they've trained loads of people in Ireland on this methodology, and have their companies that they've trained have literally raised billions in funding to date. So very experienced people. They spend a week in Ireland training you, and then they have weekly check-ins up until Christmas until they've validated what your problem solution is. Cyber Ireland is the industry cluster I mentioned already, based in MTU. Alacrity and the Cyber Innovation Hub in Wales are innovation partners of ours. They sit on our advisory board. We met with them today, and they give us lots of very good advice on their experiences in setting up cybersecurity businesses. They're a few years ahead of us. They've been up on the go maybe 3 or 4 years. They've different model, but they're very useful in bouncing ideas off and giving us ideas on what might work and supporting you on your journeys. Cyber Skills is the people who'll be delivering the electives on cybersecurity, and then the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative is it's a group of, I think there's 41 organizations based in Washington, I think, and they're more research partners of MTU, but they do a lot of innovation initiatives and again sit on our board and give us advice on how we might help you. So nearly there now. So the program objectives, this is the one you need to kind of take very seriously. We're not here to do the first one, okay? That's not the goal of the program. We're very much about the last one. How we're measured, how the program's going to be measured is to deliver high potential startup companies. So the first step in that is to create a new cybersecurity startup. And for those of you who are not from Ireland or aren't familiar with the concept, a high potential startup is a designation from Enterprise Ireland who fund the program with the ERDF. And the idea being is they see you as a company that can have 1 million in revenue, is export focused, and employ 10 people within 3 years of them giving you in high potential startup investments. So Colin is on that journey. He's secured pre-seed startup funding, which is kind of the first step onto high potential startup funding. So hopefully they'll be our first taken metric as we go along. To be honest, our view would be it's the startups is the key thing, and if they turn into high potential startups, that's brilliant. But really, what we're all about is people starting new cybersecurity businesses, solving problems, and obviously, as an effect of that, we're going to train about 75 people over the funding duration up to 2030, where 12 people a year with a few more will get this set of skills. But as I said, we're not interested in those going back into industry. We're interested in starting new businesses. So if you decide at the end of the year that you need to get funding to develop technology before you even talk to VCs, this is one of the options available, and it's available in any university in Ireland, where there's a scheme called the Commercialization Fund, which is basically the money is actually given to a researcher in MTU or whatever university. And we have one of the group from last year have has got funding this way, and it's funding up to about 500,000 in plus an overhead contribution of 30%. So it's really worth about 600,000 or 700,000. The idea is you find a researcher who has the expertise that you need to help you work on your project further once you've got the commercial validation done, and they apply for funding. You become part of that team for a year or two, and then you spin out that technology at the very end of the project. So that's an option that is open. You don't have to do it. It's just something that's there, but it's competitive funding that must be won. And then also then, as I said, you're based in the Rubicon Centre. What our hope is over time, a lot of the people who graduate from Cyber Innovate will move down the hallway and take up an office in the Rubicon Centre and be part of that ecosystem then when receiving all you can see all the different supports that any company that would be in the incubator would get. And then quickly there's a very high level summary of what went on in year one. We had 12 students, 8 company visits. I think they identified 435 needs, came up with nearly 40 concepts. There was over 300 customer interviews done. We had 41 guest speakers last year. So, like in term one, we do get people in every Monday to talk to you. So, in term one, it's all about cybersecurity, helping you upskill into that area. In term two, it switches over to more commercially focused, getting people in who are investors, understand how to raise money, who are seasoned entrepreneurs who've done different things, or we have a number of actually recently founded entrepreneur or cybersecurity entrepreneurs, which has been really, really useful. And we're adding to that list all the time. So again, it's about just not just doing the modules. It's kind of giving that broad upskilling to allow you to meet your own targets. So the outputs then is the final slide for me. The outputs in year one is we have 4 startups. We have another one to come, Coon Secure. So basically, Colin will talk about Altera and their product. Mulcahy Ward is a cybersecurity consultancy business that their long-term goal is to act as consultants to the regulators because of all the regulation that's coming into Europe at the moment. But at the moment, they're starting with, we're waiting for NIS2 to be enacted, which is European legislation. It's supposed to be enacted in well a couple of years ago, but they're saying this quarter, possibly next quarter. And once that's up and running, they're going to change who they're targeting. But currently, they're helping SMEs prepare for that NIS2 directive to be enacted. Resilium is an operation technology security operations center, OT SOC, and that's a guy called Paddy Lang is heading that up down in Kerry. And they're basically There's loads of security operation centers currently for IT, so basically for analyzing current networks and in, say, your university or your business, but it's not so common in the OT space, which is basically OT is equipment that would be used inside in a factory. So the idea is you'd pay Paddy's company Resilium to monitor your equipment from a cybersecurity perspective and deal with it if something goes wrong. The dealing it could be alerting you, it could be shutting things down, or it could be taking everything offline, depending on what your service level agreement is with them. DocuWill is a startup on end of life planning. I won't get into how, I don't know, I still don't know how Harry got there, but that's where he ended up. He's completing New Frontiers up in Carlo at the moment, is hoping to have an MVP ready in the end of Q2. And as I said, Coon Secure is a startup looking at individual privacy in cybersecurity. Melanie O'Donovan is hoping to start that in, I would say, in the next few weeks to get that up and running. She's currently funding her own MVP. And the last one then is Mars Shield, is one of the ones that's the only one that went for the commercialization fund. The slide I just mentioned two back, where the PI is a guy called Connor Lynch, but the student is Amarzini, and he was one of our students from Cullum's group. He's got over 430,000 on funding to develop that technology. So the idea is the PI will develop the tech, and Amar then is embedded into the project as the commercial lead. If all goes well and the technology works, Amar then will take the technology, spin it out, and start a startup company with kind of 400 or 500 grand worth of research gone into it, which we will then use to try and attract funding to build his own company. So that's me, and I'll hand over to Colm now. And at the end, said at the end of that, then we'll take we'll go through the Q&A.
Thanks, Ronan. Hi, everyone. So yeah, just I'll give you a bit of my own background before joining Cyber Innovate and then leading to Cyber Innovate. So prior to that, I studied business information systems in UCC. Graduated that around 2020. And then I went on and worked in cybersecurity in Dell Technologies and worked in SMBC, Japanese bank, out of Chile, in cybersecurity as well. And I guess during my time in college and during my time even in these corporate companies, I was always entrepreneurial. I was trying different things like I had a firewood business with my father. I'd like a self-guided walking tour. I had a sweet shop in the local park, things like this. Um, but I guess my ambition was always to try and start something that could scale bigger. So it was actually one of the lecturers in MTU reposted the Cyber Innovate post. And when I read it, I was like, this is exactly what I want. So got into the program then. And honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't think I would have started a company that could scale to become backed by Enterprise Ireland, I guess, without Cyber Innovate. So that was really good. And I guess what I realized when I got into Cyber Innovate then was that number one is there's a great ecosystem in Ireland for startups, but unless you're in the ecosystem, it's hard to know how to navigate it or what's available to you. Things like New Frontiers, Enterprise Ireland Pre-Seed Start Fund, HPSU funding, the local enterprise office grants, all that stuff, I guess I didn't really know about, even though I was entrepreneurial. And the other thing that I realized is that there's systems and methodologies to starting a company and identifying an idea and validating an idea and stuff like that. And that completely changed things for me and how I thought about the business. And that was probably the best learning in it. Like Ronan mentioned, design thinking there. Um, and I think now more than ever, design thinking is probably one of the most fundamental kind of skills you can learn in business. Because with like AI generated code and everything now, anyone can build a product, but um, the real skill is knowing whether a product will be useful or not, and identifying a real pain that real users want, um, and being able to solve that for people. So I guess, yeah, the part about building the product has become much faster and much easier, but the business fundamentals won't be automated by AI. So that's a great skill to learn, regardless whether or not you end up starting a cybersecurity company. Uh, Other thing, I think there's a question in the chat there directed at me about what is the most time consuming skill or piece of knowledge I would learn to get a head start. Um, I guess the most important skill, and I won't say the most time-consuming skill, but the most important skill is, in my opinion anyway, is learning about the different milestones associated with different stages of fundraising. So um, whether you do or don't take fundraising is kind of irrelevant to knowing the milestones and what's expected of you at each stage. So all of you when you're in the incubation stage could be considered in the pre-seed stage. So I guess learning what does the pre-seed stage mean and what milestones you should achieve at pre-seed is um, very valuable, I would say. Because when you talk to investors, you seem like you know what they're expecting from you, what they want to hear. Um, and also, it gives you direction in terms of what you should be focused on at this time. Um, I think the concept of product market fit um, is another really, really important concept to grasp, and not just to be able to quote it, but literally live it. So, like, um, I think a lot of early stage companies can focus on, say, sales, marketing, all that kind of stuff very early and branding. But one thing that I didn't know really was that like there's no point doing any sales or marketing until you get to product market fit, and that essentially it can take about 3 years to get to product market fit, and you only get it by deploying a bad product, getting it in users' hands and getting feedback, and essentially iterating on that feedback, and that process takes about 3 years. So I think once you understand product market fit and you realize that your product will be poor and people, I guess your product won't function correctly for about 3 years, and knowing that and accepting that, and actually that enables you to move much faster then. Because I think especially in Europe, we can um over engineer things. So I think understanding that is really important. Um the other thing then, the last thing I guess is just I have an email from a friend that just came in the last hour about the importance of entrepreneurship, especially in Ireland. Um, like Ireland has done an incredible job in attracting multinationals, foreign multinationals to our country, and that's created loads of employment and everything, which is brilliant. But it has created a concentration risk in terms of the amount of tax paid in Ireland. So like an awful lot of our tax, I think 50 to 55% of income tax is paid by employees employed by foreign multinationals. So, in order to strengthen our economics base, we need more domestic companies and Irish startups. So, um, I would say that like if you are doing a startup, you are doing a good thing for Ireland as a whole as well and the economy as a whole. So I would just really, really encourage it. And lastly, it is a great time to start a company with AI and the movements that's happening there as well. I think that's everything. Ronan, was there anything else you wanted me to kind of cover or talk around? No.
We have, thank
No,
you,
I'm good,
Colin.
Colin.
We have a lot of questions actually coming in. So I suppose, Ronan, some are few, but Colin, your opinion will be good on some of them as well. So
Yeah.
I'm conscious of time, so I'll launch into them there. So um, there's one, it's anonymous. How easy has it been in the past to get access to interview these busy professionals? And that refers back to your slide, Ronan, when you're on about the interview process that we do.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's two stages there. In term one, we bring you to the people. So in the first module, in the design thinking module, all the interviews you're doing with probably over 100 people, we bring you on site. We organize the interviews for you, so you don't have to worry about that at all. And then as you pick your your problem solution, then you'll be also at lots of conferences. You'll be meeting people at all those things. You'll have your own networks, and also because you're based in Ireland, is you'll everyone knows everybody. So it's remarkable that like it's actually getting your first 4 or 5 interviews in the customer development one. It's probably the hardest bit. Once you've done that, then it just flows from there. But as I said, because you've actually, if you say think about it, going back to the asset management example, you will have interviewed a few asset management people. Then you say, okay, well that's going to be my customer. So you'll go back and talk to them and say, well, I'm going to come back now with a different set of questions in the customer discovery phase. And at the end of that interview, you ask them, and can then you recommend me to all your asset management friends and get contacts through that. So it's not difficult to get the interviews. It's daunting, but it's not difficult.
Okay, so I'll go on to the next one because we have quite a few coming in now. So, will any of the immersive centers provide access to a quantum computer?
No, and again, this is not about technologies. If you're thinking about quantum computing and that's what you want to do, probably Cyber Innovate isn't the place for you. You need to, if you have an idea around quantum, you need to look at something like New Frontiers that Enterprise Ireland offer. That's for people who have an idea that they think they know about. So we have access to quantum computing through our Cyber Explorer research group. And if your project that you find a problem and solution for needs access to a quantum computer, we can get that, but we don't want you coming in saying, I'm thinking about quantum. We want you open to finding a problem, a solution. You're working with two other people. You can't drive them into your direction. So I suppose what I'm getting at is park the technology, and this is all about finding a business problem that needs to get solved.
Okay. So now this question from Jays, what is the percentage of businesses from the program that has lasted more than 5 years?
The program is only two. This is only the second year of the program, so I can't answer that. So Column's group was the first group, and as I said, we got 4 startups out of the 12 people. One of them is a research project that hopefully will turn into a startup at the end. And the last person, Melanie, is hopefully starting a business in the next few weeks. So we're hoping at 5 startups out of 12 people.
So the next question from John, do you need to come into this with a business idea already?
No, the opposite. We want you coming in with no business idea. If you have one, there's lots of supports available for you. So we'd ask you to
Okay.
give up that idea and come in with an open mind.
Okay, so we have an anonymous question. Is anyone already dealing with network security problems in home care settings so far?
No, and we haven't really done anything at the end user in the business to consumer area. We haven't designed our immersive environment to be focused on the consumer. And again, if you have a specific idea about a specific and you have a problem solution already, you don't really need Cyber Innovate. That's its purpose, is to help you find that problem.
Okay. So the next is also anonymous. What if I have a long, greater vision for a product and cybersecurity is a huge part of its jigsaw? Will I be still considered for the program?
Again, would be a very similar answer to the previous two, is like, if you have that idea, then you don't really need our help. The second phase, the customer discovery phase, will help you. We don't want people coming in with preconceived ideas and trying to force their teammates into that idea, because that's the only way. Like, you have to work in a team. So it's not there for people who know what they want to build. It's for people who are open by engaging with all these people. It's not just that you have an idea, that you have a really good idea that's definitely unsolved, and you've got a market research done, you've regulatory assessment done, you've really validated there is a problem behind, and your solution, the right one. Fine. If you have, yeah, either park it or. Have you frozen there?
Um, I don't know, you frozen? Am I frozen? Colin, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, Rona, you might be frozen. Um, so yeah, okay, anyway, can you hear us, Ronan?
My internet connection there for a second.
Perfect. Anyway, if you get cut off, I can answer some of them.
Yeah.
So another question. Hey, I'm pursuing an MSc in cybersecurity from MTU. I have a total experience of 4 years and 1 year of internship. Ca Am I able to apply for the program?
Um, We'd look at it. You can apply if your master's is finished this year. We'd have a look at your application anyway. It would depend on your experience. If your master's is going on next year, no is the answer. You can't do two programs at once.
Um, a question from Michael. Are there any books or materials not on the curriculum you would recommend us reading before starting the course?
Again, it depends where you're coming from, Michael. If you're new to the whole innovation area, there's lots of good books. They're actually on the syllabus as a business model generation, testing business ideas, high impact. I'm just looking at them here. High impact tools. They're all by Alex. What's his surname again? Alex Osterwalder. And he'd be the kind of person who invented the business model canvas. But there's a gazillion books out there that can help you to kind of get into whichever area. So again, if you're coming from the technical side, I'd be just buying. Look, there's lots of good books on innovation, and similarly, if you're coming from the other side, then you need to start saying, well, can I get something that'll help me on cyber? But I wouldn't worry about it. Like you don't need to start reading loads of books over the summer. I'd be thinking more about entrepreneurship might be beneficial because that will help anybody who's going to go on that journey.
Okay. Another question from Owen. Assuming you get a good problem solution, will the course cover the details of setting up a company and meeting all the legal and tax implications?
No, that's up to you. That's what funding is for. So we get you through the process of being able to go out and either, so Colm's journey, he would have gone through the local enterprise office, Microfinance Ireland, and recently got EI's Enterprise Ireland's pre-seed start funds. So you've about 200 grand in funding there. You could use the commercialization fund to build out the technology over a year or two named to you, or you may have money from, some people have, there's a lot of redundancies in the last couple of years. People might have a few bob in their pocket, some money in their pocket. They might be able to use that. So we don't support you in doing all that stuff. We get you to the point where you validated the opportunity, you have a business plan, you know how to pitch, but then you're released off into the big bad world to go and get money and start your own business.
Okay. So that yeah, we still have a good few coming in now. Question from Niall: Is the cyber team available for separate discussion after some time? After the call, I'm exploring a niche area of cyber and interested in networking and potentially applying to the course.
You need to send me an email on what you're thinking of there, because again, if you've got an idea and you're hanging on to that idea, then the program's not for you. If you have an idea and you have funding, you could talk to our researchers to help you build it. That's a separate conversation. It's outside the scope of this, really.
Okay. Anonymous, is the application open? I think I found an application link a month or so ago and applied. Couldn't find the latest dates back then. Should I reapply again?
No, the closing dates. If you have applied, we have you on the system. The closing date is April the 13th.
Yeah, and if you have any concerns or whatever, you can email myself or cyberinnovate@mtu.ie and I can just double check if you're just concerned about any part of your application. You should be able to see it on the CRM system, but you can just message one of us. Because your name is anonymous, so I can't check there now. So a question from Ekram. I know a subject area where I want to innovate, but do not know the existing problems as I'm trying to build up this skill. For instance, maritime intelligence and anti-money laundering, but more on the cyber sec approach. Can I come with the mindset or totally technical approach?
Again, we want you to come with the mindset of I want to do a startup and I'm willing to go through a process to find a problem, and not necessarily in any particular. Actually, we're saying we don't want you trying to drive it into a particular space unless you can find an application with your problem solution that you identify that fits there. Because again, you're working in a team that you can't be forcing them to go work on your idea. If you have an idea already, then again, if the program is not for you, you need to park it and be willing to follow the process.
Okay, so there's a question from Shivastra. Will visa sponsorship be provided for immigrants who are on a stamp 1 visa?
You'd have to talk to our international office and see what this. We don't know exactly where you're coming from. You'd have to find out talk to our international office, and they'll tell you what's involved in getting a visa. But you'll need like a student visa to do the program, but you also need to be then capable of working in Ireland after the program. So you need to kind of find out about both of them, what's involved. But we don't offer that as part of the program ourselves.
Okay. Hi Ronan, is there any kind of prior knowledge needed for governance? Is AI governance of any interest in this project? Thank you so much for sharing all this information.
We do lots you'll be covering all sorts of regulatory issues as part of, said you'll be doing a half a module on regulation on it said on like the likes of this too. The AI Act is coming up more and more and will become part of it. And also the elective that you can do if you're coming, say, from a lot of people have done the DORA module offered by Cyber Skills, and that upskilled them a lot into the regulatory space. So there's a lot of support there.
Okay. Um, Another question, are candidates assessed for each module at the end of each semester? Exams, or is it done another way? Thanks, from Brian.
Yeah, there's no sit down exams. It's all what we're trying to do is we design the course that the modules, what you generate at the end of each one, fits into what you would do as you're trying to start, well, research and start a business. So in the design thinking phase, you basically do the design think. We teach you how to do design thinking. You do it, and you write a reflective journal about what you learned. Okay. Similarly with the customer discovery, you do presentations with each those two modules as well. The cyber commercialization, you do a market research report, and we kind of two different reports during the term, and you do a regulatory report, and then on the last module, then in the cyber journey, you write a business plan and you pitch it to a bunch of investors. So I think Colm used to that to me at one point. They're all, well, you mightn't have felt it at the time, but they're all necessary evils of things you have to do along your journey in starting a business. So you might necessarily use the business plan the day you walk out of the college, but you'll have to write a business plan at some point if you're trying to get funding off somebody. So as I said, they're all deliverables like reports or pitching, but there's no sit down exams. But it's all designed as stuff you need to get done if you're going to do a startup at some point.
Okay. There's a question from Jack. Can we do multiple electives or is there a limit?
We ask you just to do one. There's always gluttons for punishment that will try and take on more, but our view would be there's a huge amount of work to get done, particularly in the first term. And I suppose the second term, in my view, would be there's a load to get done as well. But it's up very much on the individuals or the team and how they drive themselves as they're seeing the startup opportunity. But in term one, you've loads to do, and it's quite frantic. It's all very new. So one elective really is all we'd recommend there.
Okay. A question, should I have a solid background in cybersecurity to be considered for this program?
No, no. As I said during the presentation, we take people, again, if you're coming from a very commercial background, we want someone generally, ideally, to have worked in a in a technology company or something like that. That what we don't want is that they can't get or understand what's been said to them in the interviews, that they need to be capable of understanding technology concepts and be smart enough to do that. But you don't have the cybersecurity background. As I said, we ideally, our ideal teams are one person who's commercial, one person cyber, and one person another. It can be from wherever.
Okay. Can you please expand more on the stipend and the processes?
I don't know what you mean by the processes, but the scholarship is you get 39,000 next year tax free. It's paid 3,900 per month starting at the end of September, and your fees are paid. That's the scholarship, and it's tax free, and you can't work and you can't study somewhere else.
Okay. What are the working or learning hours in Cork? I'm from North Cork, but need to take public transport. 8 to 9 a.m. start could be an issue for me.
But generally, we schedule it for 10 to 4 for that reason. We recognise getting in and out of MTU is a nightmare at 9 o'clock. So, yeah, we purposely have designed the course to be 10 to 4 within reason. There might be some days you'll be asked to come in at 9.
Okay. Last call for questions. I think we've answered what I can see. If you could put them in the Q&A. Colm, I have a question for you, if you don't mind. This is something that has come up a lot this year on travel. We travel a lot. Ronan has covered it about, the expectations for travel, but this obviously can be difficult. So can you comment on your experience with the amount of travel? Is it very difficult or did you find it okay?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I guess there is a good bit in definitely semester one. Now semester two was definitely a lot more manageable, but it's an intense period. But saying that, like it's very worthwhile, very enjoyable at the time as well. And like if you can do it for a couple of months, I think, and survive it. It's like you learn so much from that immersive environment and stuff like that that it's really helpful. Um, Obviously, if you like, I don't have kids or wife or anything like that that I'm leaving at home. But as long as they're, I guess, on the same page, that you're going to do this for a couple of months and you learn a lot from it and it'll settle down after Christmas or whatever. I think it's well worthwhile. And yeah, it is definitely manageable. Otherwise, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. We have just a couple of more questions come in. This is the last call, so if, we'll be logging off after this. So if you want to put your questions in the Q&A now. So there's a question. Could you run through the application and interview dates again, please?
So the 13th of April is the closing date for applications. Then it takes us a few weeks to go through them. And I think is it May the 29th, Sarah, is the Friday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a
Friday,
Friday.
May the 29th is the interview day. That's a full day. We don't disclose in advance what's involved, but you'd be on site from around 9 and generally finish around 2 or 3. Yeah, so that's it. And actually,
Okay.
Colin, there is another one there. I think you might have missed, Sarah. So, what was the most time-consuming skill or piece of knowledge you wish you had learned before starting the program to give yourself a head start?
I kind of covered that one with the stages, understanding the stages of fundraising and what is expected from you at each stage. So pre-seed, seed, Series A. Yeah, and I think yeah, just understanding them and the typical milestones. It is knowing as well that it's different in Ireland as it is in the US. I think even talking to founders potentially that have raised capital is a great way to learn as well, and understand what milestones they were trying to achieve at each stage. And I think once you understand that, it's very, very helpful.
Okay. So we have a couple more just came in there. Are travel and accommodation expenses covered?
Yeah, within reason. So basically, we have two budgets. We have a domestic budget and we have a foreign budget. I'm not sure, am I gone there again? I think I've
Yeah,
frozen.
we can hear you. I can hear you anyway. Okay, so yeah,
Turn
you
off
might
my
be
camera.
frozen there, Ronan. So
So
I can
we have
answer.
two. We have
Yeah.
two a domestic and a.
Okay. So look, Ronan is frozen, so I can answer that question. We do cover expenses, so we are offered shared hotel accommodation overnight when we're traveling, and we can cover public transport costs. We cannot cover mileage, so we just have a limited budget that's divided per student, and we use it up right to the end. If there's for international travel, there's a €1,750 budget per student. And if you're in a team, if you do not use all of your budget, we can share that among the teams. So, there's a substantial travel budget. However, we do not cover mileage. It's just public transport costs. So if we were going to Dublin, we would cover the cost of the train, which is 66.40. You don't have to get the train, but that's the only amount we will be covering. So I hope that answers your question there. Um, there is a question on how do we prepare for the interview. Um, yeah, Ronan's not back yet, so I'll keep going with this one. So it's a whole interview day. There will be multiple interviews with different people, and there'll be also different team assessment, leadership assessments. It's an intense day. How do you prefer? It's hard to answer. How do you prepare for it? I suppose the focus of the program is start your own business, and that's very important. It's not necessarily your technical skills. Colm, do you have any comments on, you obviously went through the process. Would you give any advice to people?
Um, like we've mentioned design thinking a little bit, I think it's important to understand what design thinking is, and how it works. Like I think I watched a 20-minute YouTube video on design thinking before the day of the interview, and that helped a lot, you know.
Okay, thank you. I have a question, and again, Colin, I might throw this one at you because I didn't actually do the program. What
Yeah.
sets the program apart from others?
I think definitely the fact you have a stipend, like essentially you're being invested in, like before you ever have an idea, you're just getting invested in as a entrepreneur or as a person, we'll say, not even an entrepreneur yet. And that gives you a serious advantage. You've 10 months where you can go full time working on an idea. Also, the immersive environment. I don't know if any other, like many other or any other incubation programs with an immersive environment that essentially you get access to like C-level security people in massive companies. So like your network grows really, really quickly through the program as well. Um, and yeah, I guess there's very few full-time entrepreneurial programs either, I would say. This is one that's back there now. I probably am
Yeah.
missing other bits as well.
Yeah, there was a question on, and Colin was answering because he, based on his experience, what sets us apart from other programs. And do you have anything to add there, Ronan?
Yeah, well, the key differentiator, I think you were just mentioning the scholarship, like Ireland also fund New Frontiers. That stipend is increasing to 17,500 this year for one person. But if you look at it from an investment perspective, you're put onto a team in three. In Colum's example, the three of them have stayed together and founded a company. So that's 120,000 that's gone into that team straight away before they even look for funding. The key differentiator is the not having a problem piece, the whole needs led, the whole idea about the program, and not just our program. There's four of these in Ireland, and there will be three or four more coming in the next year. The idea is that you come in and you spend all this time validating a real problem before you start building out an idea. Because I've worked in this area for years. There's nothing worse than such as somebody coming in with a preconceived idea. Everyone's telling them it's a terrible idea, but because they spent 2 or 3 years banging their head off a wall to get it to work, they can't give it up, So we want you to very quickly evaluate loads of different problems, select one, pick it, and as soon as you get information that's negative, throw it away and move on to the next one, and eventually settle on something that you've really validated. There's a customer opportunity because you've spoken to customers, and then you go off and do the standard entrepreneurial journey. So that is the key differentiator of all of these four programs in Ireland under the Innovators Initiative program.
Okay, so there's a question, anonymous. I have an existing family commitment where I will be away for 5 weeks in December to January in Australia. I will be available online and can catch up while there. Is this possible?
No, I'm afraid not. Yeah, you need to be there. That's those days are minimum requirements. You do get a few weeks off at Christmas, but we can't work around one person.
Yeah. And that has come up one or two times as well. And just if you miss, like, for example, today we had an assignment and you would have to get extenuating circumstances from heads of department, which is quite difficult. So the program just isn't built that
It's
way.
not
So
designed, yeah.
there's not much flexibility. Yeah. So another question, are the conference fees covered?
Yeah, that's when it comes out of your budget. So, particularly in the second phase, so generally it's the first phase we go to particular events, and then in the second phase it's up to the team to decide where they want to go to. So Column's team in particular would have been very good last year for using that budget wisely, going to lots of different conferences around Europe, and you basically have an allowance of it'll be about 1,800 euros next year for foreign travel. It's up to you how you spend it. So if you go off and blow it in 3 days in Paris, and that's it then for the year for you. We'll only reimburse you up to 1750. But if you can kind of make a few trips work, and maybe from a team perspective, if you are keen to do something together, you say, well, look, I'll go to this event, you go to that event, and you maximize that budget with a view to getting as much information as you can. But yes, up to a point, up to that 1750, you can refund it for fees.
Okay. When you mentioned the same similar type question, when you mentioned budget for travel, you mentioned there are two types, domestic and foreign. Does that mean there are trips abroad? And if so, how long are they usually?
The trips abroad are at your own, you pick them. And it's once you've picked your problem and the product you're going to build, you'll understand, okay, this is in threat intelligence, I'm going to a threat intelligence conference, or this is on regulation, I'm going to a regulation conference. So it's up to you to pick the ones. You come back, you basically apply to me, I approve them. If it's outside the EU, then Enterprise Ireland and which includes the UK, because they're not part of the EU anymore, including even more annoyingly, Belfast, you have to get pre-approval from Enterprise Ireland for those trips, as well as my approval. Then we ask you to write a little report then afterwards of what did you learn, basically to tell people the following year, is it worth going to or not, or did you find it good or not, you know?
Okay. So there's a question from Michael or a comment. I read that the course was remote on the course advertisement.
No, I don't know
Actually, if you
where.
could let us know where you saw that, Michael, we'll
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
them.
it's definitely not. Yeah, it couldn't be any more on remote. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, another question from Emma. The application you were talking about, the application you were talking about it's so I think is it the app, sorry, I'm reading your comment wrong. The application you were talking about is form application. So it's the application form on our website under the apply now. I just answered that because I think it's written a bit. Is that correct, Emma? If you want to come back and clarify on that one. But yes, it's up there at the moment on the apply now. Yes, that's it. Do you want to say anything else, Ronan, about the application process?
yeah, I suppose we two things. One was if you are applying, we ask you to fill in one thing now that about how did you hear about us. We're trying to work out the best way to communicate to people each year. And there is an optional piece on an innovation project. I think it's fairly clear at this stage. But if you have done something, this is not you have to do it and you're not going to be crucified for not having it. But if you have done an innovation project, whether it is in your studies or in work or whatever in the past, describe that and show us that you can think that way, you're interested in thinking that way, you have skills or experience in thinking on innovation. It said you don't have to do it, but it's not about your idea for a project going forward. It's to demonstrate that you've done something innovative in the past. And like again, you don't have to submit one. It will help you in your application if you do submit one.
Okay, there's a comment from Niall. Thanks, Ronan, Sarah, and Colin. Very interesting. And I'll just check. Yeah, there's two last questions, so we might wrap up after this. What is the average class size, and what is the percentage of acceptance rate of students?
So there's 12 per year that we may change that. Like it'll be no more than probably 13 or 14. We might put people in groups of teams of two if necessary. So we'll just see how it works out. But generally, the target is 12 per year. And the percentage success rate, we can't answer that until we know how many people have applied. But like the first year, I won't get into the numbers because it's more about the quality of the applications as well that we take seriously. So we do get a lot of applications where people don't have enough experience or they don't have the right skill set, obviously, and we don't even mark them. They're kind of pushed out immediately. So it just depends on how many people apply. But I wouldn't worry about that. It's just put in the application. It doesn't take a long time. If you're serious about doing it, that'll come across well in the application.
Okay, and this is the last question I have. Does the innovation have to be does the innovation have to be a delivered product, or is it even a concept sufficient?
It could be just a project, but and again, it's not about the future. It's not about something you're thinking of or that you'd like to build. It's about demonstrating that you can be innovative and creative. That's all we're looking for. So it could be a project you worked on in work. It could be a product you developed. It could be something you did in a master's project, whatever. It's just to show you're capable of doing innovative things. Again, we don't expect everyone to have done this, so it's not an absolute requirement. But if you have it, send it, and it could be just a link. If you developed a website or something, that could be it, and send on the link to it. So it doesn't really matter what it is.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's it. So thanks
Yeah.
everyone for
So
your time.
yeah, I'd second that, and a great big thanks to Colin for making himself available tonight and giving you a flavour of what's involved in the program. So look, we hope to see your applications coming through. To get them in the earlier, the better. We don't want a big panic on April the 13th, but as I said, you have 3 or 4 weeks to finalise it now, and hopefully we'll see your applications then. Okay, thank you all.
Thanks,
Thanks everyone.
guys.
Best of luck.
Bye bye.